Hello, TEC participants of August 2021. I am Cayen from the Institute of Mathematics. I've been teaching in UP Diliman for 33 years, and the last 3 semesters of those have been conducted in remote mode. It has been a challenging run, a difficult one, especially since it just came upon us with no warning, and the circumstances were new and unfamiliar, uncharted territory, so to speak. But we stepped up to the plate. There wasn't much choice given that we were affected in the middle of the semester. The efforts have been huge, as you may have gleaned already from your previous sessions, and we acknowledge university administration for being very responsive. Happily, if I may say so, we have prevailed. We have made progress and continue to work hard to stay on our toes and on the alert for still emerging challenges. I have been given the privilege to share with you some of my learnings over the past 3 semesters through the topic Asynchronous Student Engagement. I will speak through the lens of my math classes, but you will see that the concerns are the same whatever the classes you may be teaching and whichever the discipline you belong to. So let's get to it. We have been advised that we have the option of meeting our students synchronously or asynchronously. Of course, synchronous is what we are familiar with. We meet at the same place at the same time. In the old normal, this place would mean our classrooms. Today, place refers to our virtual classrooms. Expectedly, most of us at the start preferred synchronous classes. That was the closest to the old normal, although it brought its share of challenges. Learning how to conduct Zoom meetings, how to share a screen, how to show computations done on the spot, to name a few of the challenges. Meanwhile, teaching asynchronously was hardly heard of or practiced before. How do you hold a class without meeting your students in the same place and at the same time? Dumbfounding, right? Or so we thought. A reassuring webinar or two, or three, or four later, we found that we actually already had the raw materials for asynchronous sessions. Our notes, our slides, our handouts just needed conversion to soft files and recorded lectures. What we just needed to do beyond, of course, the revising, reformatting, and recording was defining structure and developing flow. The purpose of these was to keep the class intact, even with students in different places accessing our lessons at different times. They could be at home or elsewhere, maybe traveling, at an internet cafe, and many would profess to working better in the wee hours. Thus, our lessons must be available anytime our students want to access them. Of course, we must also specify our time frames. This is in aid of maintaining flow and schedule. Before I continue, I would like to point out that we expect to continue using the asynchronous mode even after the pandemic and under whatever other conditions we may find ourselves in the future. Even when we will be opening up to on site classes and meeting face to face, the asynchronous mode can still be very useful. For some purposes, it may very well become your mode of choice. So you might as well commit to it today and declare, repeat after me, I take the asynchronous mode to be a permanent teaching learning partner, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in COVID times and otherwise, to love and to cherish till internet connectivity do us part. This is one union which will be under constant threat of internet disconnection. Levity aside, Since we have just performed a proposal of sorts, let's talk about engagement. To engage means to occupy, attract, or involve someone's interest or attention. Engagement means an arrangement to meet or to be present. Let me use these to say that our lessons should occupy or attract a student's interest so that she or he is actively involved. In the synchronous case, it captivates the student so that he or she is not just physically present. We want our students to be like him, absorbed in and enjoying our lesson. How about this student? Indeed, he's having fun, but apparently, no, not with the lesson. In other words, he's not engaged. So, going back to this slide, let's add a condition for engagement. Ano ba usually ang condition? A dowry, right? And for our purposes, the dowry will be the very popular, or is it notorious, course packs. Let me go into detail. I speak from personal experience. The biggest question in my head when we were confronted with the need to deliver lessons asynchronously was, how do I engage students in the asynchronous mode? My students would not be sitting in front of me. They would be sitting in front of screens in their homes, in internet cafes, maybe scattered all over the country. Last semester, I even had students based in another country. And then there I was at home myself, wondering, how do I engage my students? With each of us just staring at our respective screens, how do I connect with them, keep them glued to the screen and our lesson? I found my glue in the form of the course pack. I'm sure you have heard a lot about the course pack already, and in much detail. You had sessions devoted to it, right? That alone boosts my conclusion that the course pack is key to asynchronous student engagement. With a proper course pack, you, the teacher, will appear ready for the semester. With a proper course pack, your students will see you as a responsible teacher, one who has given much thought and effort toward what they will need for the semester. To them, this is very, very reassuring. And if throughout the semester this impression is realized, then it can be very rewarding for everyone. So, their class are the new 3 R's of the remote mode: ready, responsible, reassuring. Being ready and responsible will hopefully rub off on your students, and in turn, you will be the ones to be reassured about how good your course pack is. Again, I won't talk anymore about what a course pack is. You know all about that already. I will continue with how we would carry out the asynchronous mode properly. Remember our question earlier? How do I engage my students? I won't be standing in front of them like before, but just speaking to them from their screens. How do I keep their attention then on me and my lesson? Let me share again from experience. Much of what will follow, I heard from webinars. You must have two, and I have found that they are sound advice, believe me. It goes without saying that you should have your course pack, your materials, and whatever else you may need prepared beforehand. This is necessary so that you can upload files promptly. The earlier the better, because some students are fast workers and prefer to do their schoolwork in advance. There are also those who will ask for hard copies. Then, Give clear instructions. Sometimes what we think is already clear might not be so to our students. The remote mode can make our students makulit and sigurista. On the other hand, some students do not or cannot access our lessons often or regularly, so make sure also to issue reminders. These are very helpful to them. Another helpful detail for them is the provision of your point and grading systems. Otherwise, be prepared for a barrage of email asking you for these. Don't be surprised if a freshman asks for rubrics, or someone who already got a 99 will still ask you how you got her or his score. Surprises never cease with this generation of learners. So also, you must grade and return assessments promptly. Explain to them which scores will go into their class standing and which will not. Finally, provide feedback. This is a very important form of engagement. I will reserve details on this for my next talk. Now, allow me to add here that I opted to use the university learning platform, UVLE, for my classes. There, I uploaded my course packs, performed class activities like quizzes. There, I collected submissions, I posted feedback and assessments. And there, we did our communication. I encourage you to explore UVLE also and its capabilities. Do it early on. Now for some quick general tips on how you can best work on their brains and keep their interest. Use up-to-date materials and cite sources. Advise students too which sources may or may not be reliable or acceptable. Provide different types of materials: papers, text, slides and handouts, recorded lectures, videos, etc. Assign different types of activities. Some may be individual activities, group activities, some requiring them to write, some could be performed, some could be quick spot checks, some could be reflective homework, some could be done synchronously, some can be done asynchronously. The variety will help prevent ennui, a major enemy in the remote mode. And you would also want to encourage your students to interact and work in groups. For me, the most relevant part pertinent to the present time has to do with a hashtag initiated last year. That was hashtag compassion. Check on your students regularly. This generation of students have on their shoulders concerns which we did not have to face: a pandemic and its accompanying concerns, some of them weighing quite heavily on their young shoulders, plus gadget and internet dependence. These cause learning difficulties which they will not necessarily disclose unless you ask them. Frequent absence, non-submission of requirements. In the old normal, we would not even bother asking why. We charge it to laziness, maybe a lack of care or a lack of diligence. Now, such is not always the case. Many times the absences and non-submissions are due to circumstances beyond our students' control, like brownouts and having bad or no connectivity. There may also be instances of COVID in the household. In these cases, we should be more considerate about hearing them out and giving them chances to make up. Allot consultation sessions. This gives them a chance to speak with you directly and hopefully be more open with their concerns and situations. Make sure to ask which mode they prefer. And in case they have more concerns or questions that cannot wait for your consultation hours, or maybe they're too shy to tell you face to face, rather screen to screen, remind them that you are just an email a PM or a DM, a text or a call away. Then give them your communication protocols. What time may they text or call you? May they email you before or beyond office hours? And when may they expect replies? For your own wellness, I don't recommend that you make yourselves available 24/7. I know of some instructors who tried doing this, saying they did this because they felt for their students. Way before the semester ended, these instructors were already complaining of lack of sleep, or not being able to attend to their studies, or bungling their schedules, like they'd need more time to check their exams and the like. You have to stay well and focused in order to remain a reassuring presence to your students. Reply to their comments and queries. Prompt replies are preferable. I must admit, sometimes I reply later than desired, but that's still better than not replying. So make sure to keep track of students' communication lines with you. An unintended delay or non reply could give them wrong and damaging impressions. Lastly, for this page, this is a time to be generous with positive feedback. It does wonders for their confidence and enthusiasm. Then make sure any corrections or criticisms are stated constructively. Remember, we belong to a university that espouses honor and excellence, utak at puso. If you were my students, I would be telling you that I'm sure already of your academic excellence. You're Diliman students already. So I would just remind you of upholding honor and integrity. In this session, you, however, are teachers. So I chose to dwell on utak at puso. However, I'm also sure already of your utak, your UPD faculty. So I will just exhort you that in these times, you must now and then remind yourselves of the puso part. The past months, and especially in the recently held UPD commencement exercise, our university was referred to as a kanlungan. This Filipino term is translated as haven, refuge, and shelter. Indeed, the current circumstances are still daunting and full of uncertainty. This has become cause for doubt, lack of confidence, concern, and even anxiety for both our students and ourselves. Thus, let our courses be havens of security for both our students and ourselves, especially in the asynchronous mode. Where else would they be more secure than in our classroom, our virtual classroom? Where else would we be more confident than in our materials? In the asynchronous mode, where our students are neither in our classrooms nor able to consult us in person, our lessons are the closest that they can get to either of these modes that they grew up with. This is why our lessons must engage our students. Our lessons must pull them in, attract them, occupy them, involve them, and captivate them so that they become actively involved, so that you and they may feel that they are present, not just physically in your class, albeit virtually. There was a time that strict was the way to go, an unfeeling type of strict even. Now, I feel this would be very counterproductive. Now is a time for sensitivity, just at the level that you're comfortable with. Not too much for sure, but zero is unacceptable. The feeling that we care for our students will boost their engagement in our classes. Engaging our students, especially in the asynchronous mode, is key to their feelings of reassurance and confidence. At a time like this, those are big words, but they are necessary and they are achievable through us and our classes. Oof, masyado na bang mabigat? Let me then end on a lighter note. Congratulations on becoming members of the UP Diliman faculty and best wishes for the semesters to come. Remember our cute young couple earlier, the quote unquote professor who vowed to make quote unquote asynchronous mode his lifelong partner? I hope you have made the same decision and that the two of you will live happily ever after. Thank you very much for listening.